What's up, world? It's Dylan. I'm back for day 4 of the album cover challenge, and today I'm going to talk about a Pink Floyd album called Meddle from 1971. So I actually didn't listen to this album until 42 years after it came out in 2013, but it's one of my all-time favorites. And at the time when I listened to it, I was looking for music that could induce like a meditative state for me. And I remembered in high school, I did like every high school kid is supposed to, and I put on my headphones and I listened to Dark Side of the Moon in the pitch black, and I remember that I got lost in the album, and I felt different things during the album, including fear, which is something that I never had associated with music. But I wanted to dive deeper into what Pink Floyd had to offer. Again, they're one of my dad's favorite bands as well. So I made a decision that I was going to listen to at least one Pink Floyd album each night as I was going to bed until I finished their discography. And the first night I put on one of their albums called Uma, and there's a song on there called Grantchester Meadows, which is the most relaxing song I've ever heard. It was the only time during listening to it that I went and played that song again because it made me feel so relaxed. And I was like, this is what I'm looking for. So instead of doing one album a night from then on out, the next day I laid in bed all day and I listened to all of the Pink Floyd albums. And about midway through the day, I finally turned on Meddle. And the only song that I'd heard on this album was Echoes, which is one of the most iconic Pink Floyd songs, and it's one of the Pink Floyd songs that a lot of people tend to know. Because it has some great guitar work, and it is the spacey Pink Floyd sound that really would come to define them. So this album opens with this delayed bass, just bum 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 bum, and it has this intense feeling that I picture as basically like being on a space highway in an 18-wheeler going 100 miles an hour. And it's crazy how the bass and then the slide guitar work that David Gilmour does, it automatically hypnotizes the listener from the onset of the album. So then the next song is almost like you're thrown out of this space Mack truck and you're floating back down to Earth with a parachute on. And this album's called A Pillow of Winds. It's really smooth, and basically it gives you this feeling of release, like you're floating back down. And that's the dynamic nature of this album. And what you're gonna hear me talk about is what I visualize with this album, because that's what it does for me. It puts me in such a meditative state that my imagination is free to really create whatever I want, and it's a magical feeling. My favorite song on this album, and it's actually my favorite song of all time, it's called Fearless. It's the third song, and this is one of the only songs from the album that I'll listen to just on its own. So I'll listen to it whenever I feel like my back is up against the wall, maybe I'm having self-doubt. I'll turn on this song and it just puts an inner drive in me. I know when after I listen to it, I can feel my own power because of the experience that I've had listening to this album and how I was able to actually see how powerful the imagination can be, and knowing that inner power is within me really can drive you to become fearless. So this song, basically, I feel like that Peter Pan scene where the kids are learning to fly. This is like if you were floating down with a parachute in the last song. In this one, you learn your ability to just float without anything. You can just think and you can float. So at the end of the song, they actually did a sample of the fans at a Liverpool Football Club game singing, like chanting for the team, and you can hear this giant crowd, and basically I feel at the end of the song like the crowd is cheering on me for realizing the potential of my mind, and I feel like I'm floating in the middle of a stadium, like a filled soccer stadium, while the crowd is like cheering for me. So the next song is called Saint Tropez, and it's smooth. It's a jazzy song. It brings you back down to earth, which is perfect for the next song. That one's called Seamus. And Seamus, if you pick one song to listen to Fearless, and then if you like that, listen to Seamus as well. So Seamus is like another one of the poppier Pink Floyd songs, but it's got this down south blues vibe to it. It's so good. And basically I picture myself basically like sitting on a porch with my best friend as like an old man, like drinking sweet tea and like hanging out with the dog, maybe playing some blues music on the porch. And basically like Pink Floyd actually brought in a dog for this song, and the dog howls throughout it, but it's in the correct key, and it's crazy. The dog is literally singing part of the song to you. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, I would definitely recommend it, because it's not something that any other band would do. And then now guys, now it's time. It's time to talk about Echoes. Echoes is the 24-minute epic song that ends this album. To a lot of people, it's the only Pink Floyd song they know, and it's the defining Pink Floyd song. You know, they write these outrageously long songs with intricate detail that make you feel like you're in space. And yes, that's what this song is. I have watched the Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii DVD, so the beginning of the song, I tend to visualize the scenes from the film, but eventually it renews that floating feeling from Fearless, but you're in space, right? And then eventually the bass line gets funkier, and it goes from like a floating feeling to straight up flying. And sometimes I can even feel like wind blowing against me when I get this deep into this hypnotic, meditative state listening to this album. And I can see like myself basically flying and doing flips over like all the ancient wonders of the world. Right? And I know this sounds absolutely berserk, but that's the power of the imagination. And this album is a tool to help expose you to that power within yourself. So eventually, this song takes a dark twist, and it's almost like you're descending. And the way that I picture it is like where they showed where Bane grew up in the Batman movies, like underground, but you can still see up, but you can never escape, right? And you hear these like seagull squeals that David Gilmour's doing on his guitar, and that makes me feel like being trapped, looking up and seeing the birds hundreds of feet above me, but like knowing I'm not gonna get to the surface level again. Like I'm deep and trapped in this descent. But then you hear Richard Wright comes back in and he's playing this real soft pad-like electric piano sound, and it's almost like rays of sunshine coming down and like filling you up with your power again. And then you hear the bass line come back, and it has this delay on it the same way it did on the first track, One of These Days, that builds the intensity, and you can feel it's your power, your inner power building. And then eventually you hear the guitar arpeggio come in, and the way that I picture that is almost like wings are coming out of my back now. So now I've gone through floating, I've gone through flying without wings, but now it's showing me I had these wings the whole time, and I'm powerful enough to use them to escape this descended place. And then finally, once the lyrics drop back in, it's like you're free again. You've made it out of that descent. So, and I think Pink Floyd had to be picturing something along these lines of creating a journey with this song, because it takes the listener in so many different places. So the end of the song I see as like a celebration of being able to overcome that depth that the song dove into. And really, like, during the last 3 minutes or so, I'm recollecting all the different like magical feelings that I felt while I was listening to the song, and I'm kind of coming down from the hypnosis. Like, I'm coming back to earth for real. And overall, this album, I use it as a tool. I use it as a meditative tool to really like help me slip out of stress, right? So I can just put on headphones, lie down, and listen to this album straight through, and you will feel like you went on a damn adventure. It's incredible. It's an experience. It's not just music. It is literally an experience, because it forces your imagination in places that you probably, I don't know, haven't delved into before. And then additionally, I just wanted to say, when the last time I got on a plane, I put this album on while we were still on the ground, and I got so lost in it that by the time the album ended, we were like halfway back to Orlando. I was flying from New Jersey, and I hadn't even felt the plane take off. Right? So this album definitely has some incredible powers. Overall, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all have big smiles on your faces, and I will see you tomorrow for day 5.